Well, Morgan, I think maybe the most important thing for those tuning in is to realize 2024 has proven this is an incredibly strong stock market, rising 8 out of 10 months. It's really maybe it'll end up being one of the 10 best years ever in the history of the market. But that means investors shouldn't be skeptical. I mean, there are now fundamental tailwinds coming into play with animal spirits and the Fed dovish. So I think people should just sort of be ready to buy the dips.
In a financial world constantly buzzing with speculation and shifting dynamics, Nvidia has once again taken center stage, captivating investors and market watchers alike. The anticipation surrounding Nvidia's third-quarter earnings is palpable, with expectations running high for the AI chip giant. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, the Bank of Japan, or BOJ, has left financial markets in suspense with cryptic signals regarding potential interest rate hikes. As Nvidia's meteoric rise challenges traditional market giants, and the BOJ plays a guessing game with its monetary policy, global markets are bracing for potentially seismic shifts. Stay tuned as the story unfolds and the world waits to see which direction the tides of finance will turn. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
Absolutely. To the chips, you chose Nvidia. It's always hard to tell if people are going to love or hate kind of the leader in any given space. You're liking it today. It is down about 4% this week. It's tripled on the year. It's also down 4% today. Why?
Because there's nothing else out there. You're going to do a DRAM play on Micron. You're going to do a relative valuation play on QCOM. They have the only thing that exists. And so while I hate the concentration, I hate breadth, I'd rather wallow around in small cap value like it's 2002. If you're going to bother in chips, just go for the 800-pound gorilla and go home. It's Friday.
Nvidia's financial journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. And as the world eagerly awaits its third-quarter earnings this week, the excitement is understandable. Down on Wall Street, seasoned traders are gearing up for Nvidia's report, expected to show a substantial increase in revenue, reflecting its undoubted dominance in the AI sector. Its stocks, already up nearly 200% in 2024, have propelled it past giants like Apple to hold the throne as the world's largest company with a market cap soaring to $3.43 trillion. One might say, Nvidia is on fire, and we're not just talking about their high-performance GPUs. Its influence is evident, as Nasdaq futures rose 0.6% and S&P 500 futures increased 0.25%, all in anticipation of those lucrative numbers set to be revealed. But before we go any further, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates.
It's been a really interesting, view of how semis have traded versus software, for example. The latter up, the former down. You say that you want to rotate out of semis broadly. Can you be more specific on why you think that and how broad?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's relative performance for us, Scott. That's where we draw the line. And so we've seen most of the trend conditions in an equal weight relative performance on the semiconductor index for the Russell 1000, really with the exception of, say, Texas Instruments, Broadcom, and Nvidia. There's a lot of bad charts there. And that's everything from Qualcomm to Microchip to to Micron, for that matter. So Nvidia is kind of the exception to the rule, and that always makes us nervous when one stock is swimming against the tide of the entire group. Forget the market, but when it's swimming against the tide of its own group, that's usually something that we try to avoid in mass. So we're a little bit more cautious on Nvidia probably than you might otherwise expect given the chart.
I mean, is one tide, though, if Nvidia delivers a blowout quarter, is that enough in and of itself to raise all the other boats?
It might be, but your previous guest hit something. Professor Siegel hit something really important, right? It's priced for upside, and so there are high expectations, and that's usually a point, particularly when you have deterioration in the group, that you want to be careful. I'm not overly bearish on Nvidia. I just think it probably trades closer to 120 before we're all said and done. I would say if we get a good oversold condition in Nvidia, that might mark the interim bottom or interim low for the group. So that actually be kind of exciting for us to see that, because they'll usually take out even the leaders by the time the group makes some type of low. So seeing an oversold condition in Nvidia might actually be a cleansing process, not all that bearish. So I just keep that in mind. But I'm not going to swim against the tide of the group with one name, even if it is a dominant player in AI, given the expectations where they are today. And you mentioned software. I mean, a lot of the software names are improving. They look better. We think that it makes a lot of sense to reallocate dollars away from some of these deteriorating semiconductor names and look at some of these software names that are starting to break out, because they do have good momentum there.
Across the globe, Japan is experiencing its own financial theatrics. The BOJ, led by Governor Kazuo Ueda, has kept traders on edge with ambiguous signals on potential interest rate hikes. The yen wobbled slightly at 155 per dollar, a subtle acknowledgement of Ueda's remarks, hinting at potential rate changes dependent on economic cues. While the Nikkei index experienced a slight dip of 0.76%, spurred by declines in healthcare shares, the markets remain a hive of speculation. Analysts believe that unless the dollar-yen exchange breaches the 160 level, the BOJ might maintain its current stance, keeping the suspense high. Further afield, optimism was in full swing within Asian markets, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gaining 1.5%, and both China's CSI 300 and the Shanghai Composite advancing by over 1% each. In Europe, as traders anticipate speeches from the ECB amid concerns over U.S. policy's impacts, a cautious optimism hovers, with hopes that the ECB might tread on a dovish path. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury yields remain buoyant, hovering near multi-month highs. The prospect of a less aggressive cycle of Federal Reserve rate cuts has managed to bolster these rates, with the 10-year yield at a steady 4.43%. Market sentiments suggest a 60% chance for a December rate cut, though the Fed is expected to remain prudent. The dollar, thriving alongside Treasury yields, edges closer to benchmark highs, its strength resonating across currency markets. Commodity markets are experiencing their own rebound stories. Brent crude showed modest gains at about $71 a barrel, while U.S. oil futures saw a more notable climb of over 2% to $67. Gold, ever the safe haven in uncertain times, bounced back impressively with a 1.24% jump to $2,593 an ounce, shrugging off last week's declines. The week ahead promises to be rife with pivotal market events, from Nvidia's eagerly awaited earnings release to potent ECB and Fed engagements. Investors brace themselves for an exciting blend of action and volatility as narratives around inflation and policy continue to unfold on the global stage. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Nvidia, next week. Let's go. Next Wednesday. The trade hasn't done well. What do we think?
It hasn't done well. It's been hanging around now really at the levels that were the highs from back in the summer in June. What I think is fascinating is if we didn't have an election to kind of preoccupy ourselves and all the attendant issues, I think we'd be having a much louder debate about AI and whether, in fact, it's hit a wall. I know there's been a lot of this chatter. Sell-side notes are trying to play one side or the other, but some folks inside these, training models have been saying, the next generation has just not been as big a leap as we expected or as the other ones. Now, question is, does that mean you just have to throw more hardware at it and make sure that you redeem what you've already invested, and that would be favorable to NVIDIA? I think it's going to be trading off of 2026 demand estimates once we get these numbers on Wednesday. Not so much about what the latest quarter reported. But, as Jeff DeGraff was saying, overall semis have been a big liability for this market. And the question is the other platforms, right? I mean, you have some of the other, the Amazons and the Microsofts have been very, very, had a hard time getting out of their own way.
As we chart the financial seas this week, it's clear. Nvidia stands poised on the precipice of another market-defining moment. With its unprecedented rise in the AI landscape, the opportunity for investment appears promising, if not exciting. Nvidia's stock, with its robust performance and stellar growth projections, continues to capture the admiration and intrigue of investors worldwide, making it a compelling case for those looking to capitalize on the cutting edge of technology. The current bullish sentiment around Nvidia is sustained by its relentless innovation and growth trajectories. Forecasts predict continued expansion, propelled by burgeoning demand for AI-based technologies, hinting at even greater heights on the horizon. As the global markets pulse with anticipation and watch closely, what are your thoughts on this unfolding story? Engaging with these evolving dynamics could be your next strategic financial move. Share your perspective on Nvidia's rise and the BOJ's cryptic approach in the financial chess game. Could these developments redefine investment strategies for the foreseeable future? And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen.